order our Mendocino Historical Review Board meeting of April 6th. Planner Waldman, would you be willing to do roll call, please?
Yes, and do we have Vice Chair Julian Lopez is absent by prior arrangement. Review Board Alan Sanders.
Here.
Review Board Member Justine Herbert. Here. Review Board Member Deirdre Lamb. Here. And Chair Madrigal.
Here.
And for the record, my name is Jessie Waldman. I am a planner for Mendocino County Plan and Building Services, acting as the Executive Secretary.
Great, thank you. And before we keep going, I'm just going to take a short moment to appreciate Alan Sanders. This is his final meeting, and I want to thank Deidre for getting a plaque.
You guys.
Gifted.
So Alan has been a member since 2020, and as many of you know, this is a volunteer position, and we greatly appreciate you taking the time out of your life to contribute to the
Can't say busy
village of
life,
Mendocino.
I'm tired.
I didn't say busy life, but here I'm presenting this to you.
All right, take a photo. All right.
And again, I want to thank Deidre for getting this plaque, and there's a little card in here for us.
Very
cool. So congratulations. So that will mean that we will be absent a seat. I've had some conversations with people who have expressed interest in doing the review board. That is an appointment by Ted Williams. So that's, you fill out an application and then get appointed. So I just want to, if anyone's interested, reach out to Ted, reach out to me, you can, or any of us, we can probably put you in touch. Okay.
Yeah.
Moving on to determination of legal notice. Has proper notice been established?
Yes.
Thank you. And we have item number 4 is the approval of minutes. These are the minutes for March 2nd.
June 6th. Oh, wait. No.
I have March 2nd.
Oh, I don't know, I'm reading the agenda.
There wasn't a June meeting.
May I?
Remove
Yeah.
the June.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
May I?
For some reason the outline says March 2nd. Is it June 6th?
I printed it twice because.
Are the minutes from, are they from?
You do not bring the correct outline, and I
There.
only have,
Pass this one.
it's a different outline.
I have a wrong outline. Okay, I will go for this.
I will give you my outline.
No, that's fine.
Okay, she had the April 6th outline.
That's weird.
Okay.
So, yeah, okay.
That's
You
why
can
we're
just
here.
hand me the one.
I
It's
did,
here today.
I did. So it's,
Fascinating. Okay, sorry, I was reading from the wrong outline. So the minutes of June 6th,
She was.
June 1st.
The minutes of June 6th, 2026.
Yeah.
That's what it has on here.
That's what it says on there.
Does anyone have any corrections or comments on the minutes?
I do. It says at on page 4, there's written comments as an attachment, and I can have those download this. There were 2 letters, one from Home Packer and one from Chuck Bullish.
Okay.
And I would see those comments in. And I would request that those be included because they summarized the 2 views of the Zip Lake approval rather well as I have argument for and argument against. So it would be helpful for people to refer to those
Right.
down the line.
I believe they are though they're in the record though, right? They're in the
Yes,
packet.
they're in the
Okay, but you think that it should be in the minutes?
I have, which packet are you referring to?
The original meeting packet.
The meeting.
The letters were
June
attached
6th.
in that, but you're right.
I
They're
saw them
not.
come up on the website after our meeting, actually.
Oh, okay.
So I never received them in the packet for the meeting,
Okay.
and then they were subsequently removed off the website, off the official website.
Oh, okay.
So I would like to see them reinstated, please.
Got it.
If possible.
They were?
Okay, so given that comment, would anyone like to approve the minutes as written?
I'll approve the minutes that written was Justine's accepted.
Okay, and is there a second?
A second?
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
I,
Any opposed? And so what I'm understanding is we just want to make sure that the comments for the meeting of June 6th are available on the record.
If I may, through the chair.
Go ahead.
For the record, the agenda that was posted for this August 3rd meeting, the agenda has a typo on item 4. We had a June 1st hearing for the Mendocino Historical Review Board meeting. The minutes, item 4, are correct for June 1st. Staff hears the motion on the table to include the attachments for the record that are referenced on page 3 of the June 1st minutes. I did not hear who seconded.
Justine seconded and Alan firsted. So we'll make sure that is for the minutes of June 1st, if that's in fact what we do that.
Thank you. And then all in favor?
All in favor, yeah. Okay. Correspondence, so this is 5A, the CS email. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
It was properly noticed. There was an email received on July 13th, prior to the agenda being posted, from a member of the public with concerns of code enforcement violations. If you would like me to read it for the record, I may, and we wouldn't need to because it was properly noticed.
I think that's okay, but I believe the writer is here in the audience, if you'd like to add anything, if you want. We received it, but feel free to come up, and if you don't mind stating your name for the record.
Simone Casais. And I received an email from you today saying, yes, you are volunteers. And does that mean we can't expect much from you?
no,
But I've done a lot of volunteering for various groups myself, and I take that really serious. And so I find that this MHRB board doesn't take things as serious as I think they should. Actually, in response to your email to me today, you said you do walk the village regularly. Well, okay. And also you mentioned that you hesitate to contact your neighbor, who one of my complaints is across the street from you.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, are you afraid of this neighbor, that you can't say something about his yard sale, his garage sale, his flea market, whatever it is, the junk that he's selling on the street?
Yeah, what I was suggesting is that there's a code complaint procedure, and we've had mixed results as far as the code complaint. I was just saying that I haven't to this point because he's my across the street neighbor.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I
It's against the town
understand that.
plan.
Yeah,
And let's not forget about your neighbors, who probably despise this display that he has, plus the tent.
yeah.
Bought a few things here.
But go ahead, sorry, go ahead.
What was that?
She was just saying that she.
I bought a few plates for that stand.
Good for you. That's what I have to say. I have filed a code complaint, and I'm going to harass code enforcement until I see a response to it.
Okay, thank you for that.
May I comment? So we unfortunately are not code enforcement. And so in actual fact, your point about do we take the job seriously? Yes, we do. But just us complaining to code enforcement has no more impact than you complaining. I would say that at one point in the proceedings over the last 6 years, we did have code enforcement come here every 3 months, I think it was, Jesse, to tell us what code complaints were around, which would help us when people like you ask questions. I mean, I had no idea whether a code complaint came up. So I would like to find a way, like dining act as it were, to get the Board of Supervisors to revise that decision that code enforcement wouldn't come to this meeting every so often and describe to us what code violations were in process for this village and where they were in there prior to this which is kind of what we need if we're gonna respond to something like what you said.
Yeah, we,
How do we, is there a mechanism for doing that?
yeah,
If I may, through the chair.
yeah.
Couple things, for the record, could we ask the public commenters to state their name?
Oh.
She said her name.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yes.
Thank you. So in 2023, the Board of Directors, the Board of Supervisors for Mendocino County directed Planning and Building Services, specifically to the Code Enforcement Division, to prioritize their response to complaints filed. They will look at every complaint that is submitted formally to their department. The priority order is stated on the county website under the Code Enforcement Division at mendocinocounty.gov. You go to Planning and Building Services and go to the Code Enforcement Division. They do have their directives from the Board of Supervisors in a memorandum from 2023. And I bring that up because the Code Enforcement was doing quarterly reports to the review board prior to that directive coming from the Board of Supervisors, and it did cease upon the order from the Board of Supervisors. This is a complaint-driven county, and so those will be looked at. Staff is not going out and looking for complaints or for violations, and so those complaints should be submitted if someone feels so moved to submit the complaint, and it will be looked at in the priority order of the direction of the Board of Supervisors and as their staff allows.
So, in other words, if I want to find out what complaints are about, the code enforcement isn't gonna come to this meeting anymore, I have to go read the website, that's what you just told me.
To submit a complaint,
Well, no, to find out what complaints are and what order they're in.
It's not on the website
She just said it was on the building and planning website, I thought.
To place the code in
No, I just,
violation.
no, I think what Jesse said was that there is somewhere where you can go look at the complaints that have been registered and in priority order, is that what you said? Yes.
I actually am not personally aware of if, I would need to review the website to see if there is a public link on our county website for what complaints have been submitted. I know how to submit one online. I know you can always call code enforcement, and I can provide you a number to do so for the record. You can also email them. Their contact information is also on that website.
But my request still stands, and I really think they should come here, because I mean, when I got Simone's letter, I had no idea whether there were complaints or not. Apparently, I don't have any way of finding out if there are complaints against these things, and it was really useful to have code enforcement come here, so I would like to find a way of going back to the Board of
I
Supervisors.
think it's a budget thing.
And I don't care whether it's a budget thing. I'm not in charge of the budget. I'm in charge of trying to make sure this town looks like it should look.
Yeah.
So I would like to find a way of going back to the Board of Supervisors and asking them to revisit that, because frankly, I was embarrassed by this letter.
I just want to add that
So
it has
let
been.
her respond to that request, please.
If I may, through the chairs. The phone number to Mendocino County Planning and Building Services, including the Code Enforcement Office, is 707-964-5379. You can email myself or our planning, our interim director. I will state my email for the record. It is waldmanj@mendocinocounty.gov. That is WALDMANJ. You can also email pbs@mendocinocounty.gov for any general inquiry. So you can call, you can email. I will find out if the code enforcement records are on our website. And you can also come into either our Fort Bragg office on Franklin Street or our Ukiah office specifically.
So the answer to my request is no, that's not going to happen.
That's right.
Well,
It was a very specific request, and the answer to the
She's
question
saying
is, no, I understand what we said, but the request was for someone to go back to the Board of Supervisors and ask them to reverse that decision, and the answer I got was that's not going to happen.
I think Jesse might have been saying that you can make that request through the office.
I don't hear that.
So let me clarify one thing. We're gonna talk later on about the next Board of Supervisors meeting that will be held in Fort Bragg. That might be one that could be attended. I really appreciated back when we got the report, I don't think we needed the person, the staff
just the
person.
report, yeah.
So I think the budget impact is minimal to have the code enforcement office provide us a report.
Yeah, the
It was,
report.
That would be.
it was anonymized, like it was just like, these are the code violations that have been,
Mhm.
and at least it gave us some information to be able to take action, because I do think that we, even as volunteers, I do think that we can, we can ask people, we can see what's going on. So I am happy to make that request to the Board of Supervisors, that they reinstate the provision of a report to us. If it's not on the website, I doubt it's on the website, but maybe it is, we'll find out if
Okay.
it is currently listed on the website, but I do think that the budget excuse is pretty frustrating. If
Well,
we're just
for someone
asking
coming
for
in
some new
person.
report. Yeah,
For someone coming in
Yeah.
person, yeah.
but I mean, that's,
Because they have to come from Ukiah or wherever sometimes.
I don't need someone in person, but I would love the report.
Yeah, the report.
That's fine.
And if I may, through the chair, I wanted to address one other issue here, because I have been on this board for long enough that there was a whole hoo-ha about campers in town, and people were like all upset about it. And so then we actually, the planning and building, this is back when Julia Acker. Julia Acker got one of the sheriffs to come in to our meeting and explain why, that number one, if there's people that are potentially homeless that are living in their vans and they're not allowed to move them, and for another, they have a lot of other priorities where they can't come to Mendocino every time there's a camper cart to see if they're homeless or not, or, that they just didn't have the time. So we've already been through this extensively, so I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay.
I have a comment about that, is that I looked up in California state law, is after 10 p.m. and before 6 a.m., campers have to be off the street. People can't do overnight camping. But it can vary as per jurisdiction. So if we have specific law about that, then that would supersede. But basically, they should be gone by 10 p.m.
Well,
So you could call the police to come
no,
in
we've,
and ask them.
yeah, what I'm saying is we've already done that, so.
When you say we, who's we?
The MHRD board,
Well, we're talking about.
Had the sheriff
I'm
come
talking
and
about
speak to-
individual citizens of Mendocino town can take action and call the police.
you can certainly have the sheriff come back.
Okay,
and explain.
I'm gonna bring us back to public expression. Yes, the laws that are on the books and then the enforcement are unfortunately two different things. But yes, you are absolutely correct. So I'm gonna lead us into the rest of public expression. So this is for people in the room. We welcome participation in our meetings. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person and not more than 10. This public expression items are limited to matters under the jurisdiction of the review board that are not on today's agenda meeting, and items that were not previously considered by the board. So is there anyone else that would like to speak to that?
I just want the board to know that I am solely responsible for removing all of the cars parked on private property next to Schwager's
Yes,
garage.
thank you so
It
much.
took me months to get rid of those cars, but I
You
did.
did a great job.
So, my saying that is, that's my focus, is for this town to look like it's supposed to look as a historical town. And I don't know why those cars were allowed to be there for years. You didn't notice it?
We appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to? Okay, if you don't mind stating your name for the record.
Kelly Grimes. I'd just like to remind everyone that there used to be an enforcement report at the end of this meeting. Every meeting, you would get a rundown of all the running violations in town, And there was never anything done to it, so it became a running joke. So they've scrapped it. Now you're asking for it to come back. The problem is you four, from the code enforcement perspective, the town of Mendocino is enforced by 4 people on the review board. They don't stop here. They don't come here. They keep going right past our exit. So if you guys want your rules to be enforced, if you want people to respect what you're doing here, you need to, harass the planning and building or the board of supervisors, whoever it is, to give you guys some teeth, because you have no teeth.
Okay, thank you. Jesse, go ahead.
I also, just for the record, that Supervisor Williams is a point of contact. Planning and Building Services takes direction from the Board of Supervisors, and so I would recommend that you do reach out to him.
Good, thank you.
And his number is publicly listed, but I thought it was, so if anyone needs to get that from you. Okay, is there any other public expression that hasn't been addressed or that's for items not on today's agenda? Okay, we're gonna move on to the consent calendar. The consent calendar is item 7A, NHRB 2026-0007. This is for a sign for McIntyre, Hardy, and Kimberly Pope Hodges. This is the sign that's for the honey, I want to say.
I think the applicant's even a market.
I'm sorry, say it?
I'm
I'm sorry.
She's gonna have a coffee shop.
Yes.
Super cute.
This is an item that's on the consent calendar, so we could move forward with approval. However, if it needs to be pulled, if one of the board members needs to pull it, if there's further discussion on the item. My brain is sort of scrambled. Do we get public communication on consent calendar items?
Yes,
And was there something else you wanted to add?
yes. I'm gonna give you my outline, but I do request it back because it will help you with your agenda and consent, order of all the things you say. So this is where we are.
Yeah.
I would like that back. I also have another comment, is not about the items on the agenda, but it is about a procedure that Planning and Building Services is working on right now about signs specifically. We spoke about it, I believe, at the June hearing, it may have been the May hearing, about instead of staff making a complete staff report for sign copies, we would just prepare a memorandum when it is just a new location. It's consistent with the MHRB guidelines, but it's not a sign copy that's exempt from the review board's approval. So this item is actually our first one where staff has done an analysis of time management for cost resources for the board of supervisors. And this specific consent item, this memorandum, is an example for our office to test a new process for signs to possibly present to the board for a reduction in sign costs for MHRB permits within the town of Mendocino. That was all.
So I just want to clarify that, like, if they meet these things and they're meeting all the things and checking all the boxes, they'll be on consent and we'll receive a memorandum, and if there's questions or issues that people want to bring up, they can do so.
Yes.
Okay, so first of all, up here, so this is on consent. I'm going to open up to the public if no one needs it to be pulled from consent. This is the moon honey tea. Thank you. And I'm going to open it to the public. Does anyone from the public want to speak to this sign for moon honey tea? Okay, seeing none. I will ask, should I ask for a roll call vote, just because this is our first one?
We need a motion
Okay.
to adopt the
Thank you.
consent calendar.
Can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I can make a motion for case number MHRD 2026-0007 for the applicant Una Morgan for her sign for her moon honey tea suspended from a black iron wall mount frame at 1045 on Lansing Street, Mendocino.
If I may, for the record, that would not be approving the consent calendar, so are you only approving part of the consent? I know it's the only item on the consent calendar.
Yeah, it's approving the consent calendar.
Okay, so the motion
Yes, I make a
to
motion to
approve.
approve the consent calendar.
Okay, thank
And
you.
that is the case that is on here, this one.
Yes.
If there's more than one case, I would take more of them.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Thank you. Could I get a roll call, please?
Yes.
So.
Alan Sanders
Yes.
and Justine Herbert
Yes.
and Jerry Lamb
Yes.
and Chair Madrigal.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0 with 1 absent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are now moving on to item 8. This is a public hearing item that I will declare open. As mentioned before, the review board welcomes participation in its meetings. If you'd like to speak to, I see this item, please come up to do so. We'll have the comments up here. First, this is, okay, so NHRB 2023-0002, green, so this is an after-the-fact Mendocino Historical Review Board request to replace 24 vinyl windows with 24 wood windows as needed. Note, this is a Mendocino Town Plan Appendix 1, Category 2A Historic Resource, and Category 1 Historic Resource. This Tower Building, the old bakery building, let's see, non-historic structure on property located at 10-483 Lansing Street. So, Planner Waldman, would you like to present? Do you need your thing back?
No.
Okay. I'm prepared.
Claire Waldman for Mendocino County Planning and Building Services. And yes, this is the Mendocino Historical Review Board application 2023-0002. And as stated, the project request is for after-the-fact window replacement. So in 2023, a violation code complaint was submitted to the code enforcement. Planning and Building Services was asked to review this, and it was determined that a Mendocino Historical Review Board approval is required. The project today in front of you, the site location is 1048 Lansing Street with an assessor's parcel number of 119-150-07. The environmental determination has been deemed to be a repair and replace classification of 1 under CEQA law. We have to read this now. So CEQA law is 15301, class 1, as well as historical structures, class 31, which is 15331. On site, there are multiple different categories of historical structures, and the windows are the I'm not going to answer that for the record. I will have to get back to you on the actual structure itself. I do believe it is the Stour building, but I will get back to you on that. There are many past MHRB permit applications that have been applied for and approved on this site. This is not the first time that this topic has been brought to the review board. I believe that it was a code enforcement discussion prior to the Board of Supervisors' direction. So the request specifically states to replace 24 vinyl windows with 24 wood windows as needed, and this is to resolve a building violation application BV 2025-000, No other alterations to the structures on the site are proposed within this review board's within this request. Staff has made a recommendation within the staff report presented to you today, and that is an additional condition of approval, and that is number 6. And number 6 states, for the record, as required window replacement occurs The 24 windows shall be replaced with materials consistent with the design guidelines in place at that time of replacement, such as 24 wood windows or acceptable materials. This is intended as the board has considered other structures within the town of Mendocino for retaining the windows that are existing and having them be replaced with acceptable materials when the window fails. This is just a presentation, the recommendation, for the record, the applicant and the previous owner, Mr. Green, or the Green Real Estate Enterprises, has worked with Planning and Building Services to come up with a proposal to find a resolution for window replacement that they did after, without the necessary permits. Since the applicant submitted this application and since the time of staff preparing the staff report, staff became aware that the property is sold. And there was a memorandum that has been posted to the agenda for you today. I did not bring a hard copy of that memorandum with me today, and I apologize about that. But that memorandum is about the proof of legal interest. And so the applicant, being the Green Real Estate Enterprise on the staff report, is not, the owner being Green Real Estate Enterprises is not accurate at this time. The property has since sold to the Good Life Holdings LLC, and that memorandum is a notice to the review board that the proper legal interest has been provided for the record, and if the permit was approved, then the review board could approve, and Planning and Building Services then can issue this permit to the current landowners, all while retaining the current application, which is the previous owner. Sorry for that confusing switch of ownership, needing to follow the necessary orders for making improvements on property that is no longer under your ownership. This is just a recommendation to the review board. Staff did not receive any official public comment on this specific agenda item. We did conduct a site visit and we did look at the windows that are mostly up on the second level. There are some on the lower level on Ukiah and Lansing Street. And that is available for any questions that you may have for staff.
I have a question. So this process was started by Mr. Green? He was like,
Correct.
so prior to
The sale of the property.
the sale of the property, he was like, I replaced all these windows
Yes.
in the pandemic, or previously. And, okay, so you guys were working under that property owner during this resolution plan, and now there's a property owner.
Since the noticing of this, staff was informed that the property has officially switched hands. Since, and that noticing happened on July 22nd is when staff became aware of the official proof of legal transfer.
Okay, I just have one other question, which is, on the previous one that happened in 2023, the fees were reduced a little bit, the scope was, I guess, just written on our report that and those fees were based on violations, basically. Does that sound right?
Correct.
Okay. So that's how the fee amount was come up with, just based on the, okay.
Correct.
Okay. Was there any other questions up here before we?
Just for clarification, so whatever you recommended and put in as a report now transfers from Mr. Green to the present owner. So that's, it doesn't matter who the owner is, the question is still the same.
Yes, the violation remains the same. The request in the application, it has been confirmed in correspondence with the previous landowner, now agent applicant, and the current landowner that the request is not changing.
Okay, you had me a guess, that's okay.
Great.
I have a question. You're the chair. So, Richard Green knew that he was supposed to have installed wooden windows, correct? I mean, this is
Yes.
we're talking 24 windows in the most prominent building in Mendocino. 24, and we're not talking about, and so I felt a little bit like, at the site view, if I may, where you mentioned another application that said, well, at the back of Sotheby's, those were approved, so, you know, it becomes a slippery slope, that this slippery slope is so slippery, that, you know, already we're at the site view, and someone's going, well, wait a minute, what about those over there? What about, if these are approved, who's gonna be following up in 5 years or 7 years when somebody's, window fails? Their vinyl windows, which they will. The vinyl windows fail. They just do, and the wooden ones don't as much. So, is there something in place where there's someone who's gonna be following up with this in a certain amount of years, or it's all just it's just, this proposal by planning is just word of mouth, like code of honor. Is that correct?
The proposal presented to, there's multiple questions on the table. One is I cannot speak for the landowner and I do not know, and staff is not able to answer your question about the intent and or the knowledge of the landowner. So I heard that question, but I cannot answer it for the record.
Right.
This permit, this recommendation by staff, if it's approved by the board, it is the board's discretion to say, this is not the material that is wood that is outlined in the design guidelines. And then it is the board's responsibility to enforce the character of the town of Mendocino. The board has the discretion to not approve a material. The board has the discretion to approve or not approve a proposed material. This application is in front of you, asking these to be replaced as needed.
So I think to your point is, what we're back to is code enforcement, because we don't have any teeth. So if 6 years from now, somebody takes and replaces those repairs them with vinyl windows, that's a code violation, and we may never hear about it, because they won't have to come back to the board.
So what will happen for that code violation and how code enforcement enforces that will be at code enforcement's directive.
It won't come back to the board to say, I'm going to replace the vinyl windows with vinyl windows.
Thanks, it's like for like, good one.
Yeah.
It is not like for like, and that is what the permit is recording, is that this is a non-conforming material, and this report is saying it is allowed to remain until it is to be replaced. If a new window is replaced and it is not a material acceptable by the review board guidelines, then that is in violation.
Let me ask you a question.
Sorry, ask me a question. So, in theory, that person, whoever owns that building at that time, has to come back to the MHRB for permission to replace that window with something else. Is that true or false?
If it is a non-conforming
No, no, if
material,
it's-
if
if
it
they're
is
gonna
wood, no, they would not have to come back.
But if it's non-conforming, they would have to come back, and if they don't come back, it's a further code violation.
Unless the board,
No, if they don't come back to the board, and they replace it with something that doesn't meet this requirement, it's a code violation.
yes.
Yes, okay, fine.
But then who's gonna be able to tell if it's a vinyl window?
Well, so hold on 1 second. So I also just want to clarify, which is what I was going to say, what Alan just mentioned, is that if they're replacing the windows 10 years from now, and this is approved, do they need to get a permit to replace the windows? You know what I mean? Like, is there someone at the planning department who'll be like, oh, you know, it says that it has to be wood, or would it not even go before that?
When you say a permit, and if you mean that window right next to you, that is a wooden window on a building in the town of Mendocino, do they need to come back to the review board to replace that window of like approved materials, like for like? No, they do not need the review board's approval. If they want to replace that window right next to you, with a different material and a different style that is not consistent with the review board guidelines and pass permits, then they need to come back to the board. If they do it without coming back to the board, without getting approval by the board, that is a violation.
Justine?
Yeah, I just have a question. If we do not approve this application today, what happens? Is the responsibility taken up by the new owner to replace in all wood, or who bears that responsibility? Is it the prior owner? So my question is, what happens if we don't approve?
So what happens if the landowners, whether it be the previous or the current, there is one land and owning entity, whatever that body is. If I was the past landowner and you bought my property, you are become responsible for that. So the current landowners are going to take over that code enforcement responsibility, and how code enforcement perceives that will be, I'm not able to speak about what code enforcement will do, but they are waiting for a determination and they are waiting for the landowners to resolve the code enforcement case. And they have their processes of how to push pressure on the landowners to do so. Does that answer your question?
I think so. If I understand it, code enforcement, it would go back to code enforcement to decide if there has been a violation.
There is a violation already determined by code enforcement.
It was determined in
Okay, I just feel
2023.
that this is kicking the can down the road, and that code enforcement kicked it down to MHRD when code enforcement should have caught this maybe 4 years ago, whenever these windows were put in. But at the meeting, you were saying that they were put in during COVID, and that some complaint came in about them in 2023. So that was 3 years ago, and that code enforcement had been lenient with the owner. So this is something that had been happening for quite a few years, and the can was kicked down to where now we are supposed to put in the position of, as if we're approving it. I just don't feel that it even applies that we should approve it or not. I feel that code enforcement should have, that they dropped the ball at least 2 times enforcing this. So I just want to say that. That's why I'm making this, I'm trying to make it clear, like, whose onus is it, you know, if we don't approve this? And it looks like it goes back to code enforcement, as it should have been at the beginning, to decide if this is a violation. Is that correct?
As I previously said, this is a code enforcement violation. It has been determined to be a code enforcement violation by code enforcement. Thus, we are here. I would like to add that the review board has the discretion to deny this project, amend the staff's recommendations, omit conditions of approval, and say that all windows shall be replaced with wood. That is an alternative.
So I just want to add that the staff's recommendation is based on trying to resolve the code enforcement, right? So the previous property owner basically was like, you know, this was wrong. We don't know what their motivations were. We don't have that information. But that this was a suggested resolution. And I just want to add that there, you know, potentially the review board, I know that there's concerns about the time period. So I don't know if it might be possible to, you know, this is as they fail, is how staff's recommendation is. So I don't know if there's another time period that we wanted to put on there or something other than when they fail, but not like immediately on the new property owner. And I just want to add one other thing. It was brought up at the site visit that the Sotheby's building, which is at the end of Main Street, they had a similar, in some ways similar situation because they had all these windows that were in violation.
On the back.
So, on the back. The property owner, I think it was a code enforcement thing, I don't think they wanted to, but like it was brought before this review board saying like, this is how we're hoping to deal with it. And so this is a very public, very vocal, you know, point that this is the previous property owner coming forward saying this is how we're proposing to deal with it. So we have some discretion.
I can address that.
And I will open it to the public, by the way.
I can address that, because what happened was somebody's had some vinyl windows on the front of the building that the board actually said 100%, you cannot have vinyl there. You've got to change them out. I don't care what, that's it. And so they did that. And the ones around the back, even then, there was someone on the board like, this is a slippery slope. If we say this, everyone's going to say that. And then at the time, what was said was, oh, well, every site is site-specific. And because there's trees and a steep hill and the vinyl windows are not visible, that it might be a different subject than a building that's the biggest, most center building in Mendocino. So you look at everything differently, or a little house on the west side,
I
or,
think even with the ones on the back of the Sotheby's building, I believe this board said that when they were replaced, they would have to be.
they did.
Yeah.
So I just want to say that, like,
Yeah.
it's, and that is, so, we were talking about precedent earlier, this, that
Yeah,
is some
they
of the
did.
precedent. That isn't
Right.
existing, that when those windows were replaced on that building.
We should not have approved that, thank you.
Is there any other questions for Planner Waldman?
No, I've got some questions for the applicant.
So just for the record, the applicant is not present today, but the new landowners are present.
Okay, great.
But I may be able to assist with any correspondence that I had with the current applicant.
Okay, well, it's up to them.
Okay, is that,
So what?
I don't know, I said if they want to, if there's some questions.
We're gonna, so that's the end of Jesse's presentation,
Okay.
and I'm gonna ask the new landowner if they want to speak, and then I'll be asking the public if they want to speak as well. That's my plan,
Okay.
and then we'll bring it back to you.
Good plan, huh?
Okay, do the new landowners want to add anything to what's been
Sure.
stated? If you don't mind, state your name, even though we know it,
All right.
up here.
My name,
This is for
Well,
the,
thanks, is on paper.
this is because of the recording.
right. My name is Daniel Zerbe. I'm Ted Winslow, the owner, or the main partner in Good Life LLC, or Good Life Holdings is my wife. So I've been a builder for, well, about 45 years. Since I was a kid, I've been doing this stuff. And I do appreciate the job you guys have to do, because it's important that the village or any place that you're in charge of is going to have a certain look to it. It's going to remain, historic and look good. But there's a couple points I want to make. First of all, I would not have put in wood windows, or I would not have put in vinyl windows, were up to me. But nonetheless, I'm stuck with the task of replacing them if that's what you choose. And you can't really tell the difference that much. I mean, I could tell because I know what to look for. This gentleman here had mentioned that he could tell, but really, I have to look. And I don't really think it affects the character of the village at all. I mean, yes, there is an argument that it's kind of like slipping past the protocol and everything. And I agree that that's not something that you want to really set precedent for. But at some point, they're going to have to be replaced, well before the building's, paid off and stuff. So isn't it good enough that we say that we can replace them with the appropriate materials, whatever that material is at the time? If you guys change your guidelines, well then, be that as it may. But they're going to have to be replaced eventually because they're pretty cheap windows. But you can't really tell from looking at it. And if you tear them out, well, and then there's the whole wasting thing. What am I going to do with 24 one not even have that remarried, so that's just kind of a sideline. That's kind of a big waste, and wasting is something that I try to avoid if I can. And I don't really think that, I guess that's probably pretty much it. But you can't really tell that closely. It doesn't really affect the character of the village unless you're really a professional who's looking for it really closely, or someone says, hey, look at that. You see how there's got loophole there, what have you. That's an issue, but I don't really think it makes that big of a difference at the moment, given that when they are replaced, we would have to replace them with, say, wood. Yeah. Thanks.
Is there any questions?
Oh.
Are you okay to take a question or two?
Sure. Ask the
Construction
question.
and stuff? Okay.
So, I'm trying to look at the timeline here, and do you know who David Tavelli is?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so David Tavelli got a quote from Home Depot for every single window, which we got a copy of, back in, March 11th, 2025.
That was just recently, he got a re-quote to see what they would cost. Now, that's for vinyl windows at that quote, I believe. I've seen the original paperwork from when they
Yeah.
purchased the windows, and I've seen the quote that they got for wood windows as well.
This is for wood. It's, why do you think, it looks like it's for wood. Do you want to look at these?
Sure. 2025 did, just this last
Look at the, just,
So for the public,
Okay.
this was included in the packet that,
yes,
the.
it's online.
Richard, okay,
So it does kind of look like wood, right?
let's see here. Sorry, see, we got here, looking. Yeah, it's pine, they're oralast pine, which is a treated pine, you know,
Right.
not composite, but it's all finger jointed and put together like that.
Correct. Okay, so you did get a quote for David Tavelli did.
Yeah,
So when you purchased the property, did Richard Green let you know that you were supposed to have wooden windows and?
oh, I've been aware of this situation, and we discussed it
Was
at length. He tried, well, Richard would have preferred that I did the reading, you know.
Right, but,
Yeah, but-
but is he willing to pay for the windows if they don't, if the vinyl aren't gonna pass? And-
At this point, I
Seems
think it would require a lawsuit to get him to pay for some new windows. That'd be my guess. We hadn't discussed that, I mean, he sold the building, right, so his interest is legally
Well,
terminated, so, I mean, I don't know what kind of, yeah, I could probably get him to pay for the new windows, but,
I
you know,
think the
that's
issue
not
is that
something
we
that I
can't
really
say
always
that-
have to do. I have, I've played this full without having to fight with the landlord, I mean, you know Richard, I know Richard.
no, I know,
So
and I
it's
know
not
that
an easy
Richard
thing.
has, you know, had a lot of rent in that building for at least 50, maybe 60 years.
Yeah,
You know, so he kind of, it just feels like he knows better and he's not here, so that's a little frustrating to me.
yeah, I don't, it's frustrating to me as well. you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little frustrating that he kind of knows about this whole
Sure,
project and then it's, but as
fact remains-
Justine so aptly put it, it was a code violation. The code should just have said, well, okay, that need to be wooden windows instead, it gets kicked back to us. So it becomes up the MHRD board
well, he
that
reapplied
we
for a
have to
permit,
make
didn't
this
he?
vote and it becomes personal, you know, so.
I think that his, you know, he's been sparring with building and planning for this whole time, ever since the enforcement violation was issued, right?
Okay,
So I think that this is just where it's gotten to, you know?
right,
He would prefer not to have to do anything, I'm sure.
sure.
I can't speak to that, but I know that ultimately, regardless of what the situation is, it's gonna land on my shoulders and our shoulders for
Right.
replacement. That's what, I mean, 10 years down the road, when all those panes fail because they're not the best quality windows there is, one by one, or all at once, or whatever, however it goes, we're gonna be the ones that are gonna have to replace that. I mean, we live here, it's our business, it's our entire life, so.
And I do want to clarify, Dieter, though, that the previous owner was the one who brought, you know, in to deal with the code violation, came up with this recommended resolution. So it's not just that they were, you know, it was a response to the code violation that brought it before us, I think is what I want to clarify. But I do see, so let me pause, I do see that you have your pen up.
I do.
Did you want to add something to this part?
No, I have a request.
Okay.
Could Daniel please spell your last name for the record?
Zerbe, Z-I-R-B-E-S,
Z-I-R,
Z-I-R-B is in boy,
thank you,
B is in Eric.
thank you.
Yeah, and I realize it's frustrating that we have limited ability to question Mr. Green because he's not here. But I just want to clarify that the proposal put forward is by the previous, which is very frustrating.
When we come back to the board, then I can tell you my frustration.
Okay. So is there any other questions from the current landowner, not the applicant, but the current landowner, before we get questions from the public? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll see, just for a second.
And Ted Winslow and the owner of Good Life Holdings LLC.
And I did acquire the situation in the meantime by securing my own business that I've built for 14 years as a member of the town and the community. What Good Life is basically supported by the community and to the point of being able to buy the property. Somebody came out of the community who loves and lives here and wants to help me secure myself there because of what I do provide. So that's where I'm speaking from. I don't want it to look like Disneyland in this town, nor do I want it to look like a circus. I've grown up on the coast as an environmentalist. I do not want condos on the headlands. I don't want neon signs in town. I certainly don't want anything that's going to spoil the look and the beautiful charm of the village that we all share. I also represent a member of the community that's basically, I think, inheriting from our parents' generation, the town and the stewardship of it. So I come from there also. I don't want it to look like Fort Bragg, which my husband reminded me isn't Mendocino, because Mendocino has got this natural beauty and it's historic, and I appreciate that. And on the same side, I also don't think that the windows detract from that same look. I realize they're shinier than wood, I do. But they're also gonna last better than the rotting wood ones that during COVID would have been a year or more to order especially for that property, in that he went through this as I did with COVID time. The planning department, everything was put on hold. We were trying to mitigate problems and pivot as we needed to make business operate and the community hold together and not just collapse into itself. So the decision was made to go to Home Depot, who had them on the shelf, and replace them instead of waiting a year and a half to custom order wood windows, because there was one company in America that made them and everything was shut down at the moment. Including me applying for a tent permit, which was also told to me by the head of planning and the supervisor of our district to go ahead and do what I needed to do to stay open, which is provide outdoor shelter, and then deal with it later when it came up, if it came up. Great, so that's what I did, and then when it came time to defend myself against the after the fact, I did that too, and the community came and supported me in that because they believed that it was right, not because they liked me or that I paid them or anything else, just because they didn't think it was hurting the village to have outdoor seating with a tent over it, regardless of its historical whereabouts. It was something that's supported by the whole entire community. They want to eat outside rather than inside. So therefore I was able to get it for another year, and then I removed it and put some shade sails up, which are less like a circus apparently, and just more temporary. Fine, I did that. But these windows are the other story, and I feel like, sure, if and when they fail, we'll replace them with the wood that you guys approved, or if you've approved a new material by then that's effectively better quality and not rotting as fast as wood in the ocean air, we'll do that too. We'll follow the rules like we have. Like you said, how many approved permits has Richard Green gotten on the building on that property? He has complied in the past. This was COVID. There were exceptions, and that's where we're coming from. We're not. I hear the vindictiveness in this kind of discussion, and I'm afraid of it because I feel like the decisions are going to end up being made by like anger towards somebody who did something against the rules and is now asking for forgiveness, where it should be, does this detract from the village? Is it going to be a problem, or is it actually maybe insulating those places a little better than the rotting wood windows that were there that probably would still be waiting for us to be able to afford to custom order at this point, if that was the case? Why are we keeping that kind of progress from happening? I just don't really get it with little things. Like I said, I don't support neon or, you know, whatever, all the other different regulations. We're fine to address those like piece by piece if we need to, and I'm happy to try and comply, but I need to be able to, you know, also agree with the decisions, and that's where I'm appealing from. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak to this agenda item? Just Yes, this is, yes, sorry, hold on one second. I was gonna do the public hearing, would you guys not? As I mentioned, we were gonna get comments from the public.
I was gonna close the window, is that okay? I just asked her if we could close the windows.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Is
that's.
that
The
what
word
you're-
window tree.
Sorry,
Oh, I see, the window,
Hold on.
oh, I see. Oh, never mind.
If I may.
Go ahead.
Through the chair, there's been a request to close windows. Those will make some noise. And so before we go into public discussion, I can close the windows, or I can wait. But they will make noise.
Whatever.
So be it.
Sure, yes, please close. Sorry, Kelly, thank you for your patience. You guys want to do some temperature regulation?
What was that? There's a lot of noise.
Thank you.
You get to make noise, that's it.
So I'm Kelly Grimes, for the record. Don't take any of this personal. This isn't about personalities, this is about buildings. And the fact that Richard Green isn't here, I could get into some personal attacks on him, but I won't. I think it really shows the lack of concern, the lack of respect for what we're doing. So I heard a lot of discussions about COVID and different excuses. You know, Matt Rowland, who owns a house in town, built some decks on his property during COVID because he didn't, things were delayed, there were excuses, blah, blah, blah. He got busted. He had to remove decks that he built, and he had a time frame to do it, like 60 days. Something very fast. This is how code enforcement works. I don't know how this deal got through, but the fact that you guys are going to approve, you're going to approve, if you approve this, vinyl windows in the town of Mendocino, street facing. This isn't backside of Mendo Realty, it can't be compared to this. This is south and west facing, street facing windows, street level windows, out of vinyl. If you approve what you got in front of you right now, that they can replace them when they wear out, sometime down the road, you are approving 24 vinyl windows in town. And I guarantee you that my next project will have vinyl windows. And we will be referring to this as precedent. Because these are vinyl windows that are about to be approved by you. What you should do is tell Richard Green that he first of all should show up. Second of all, this is the second time he's been here in violation and not shown. So he should be here. He should be accountable for these vinyl windows that he installed illegally, COVID or no COVID. And they should all be replaced within a certain time frame with wood windows. What they're proposing there is wood windows from Home Depot with GBG. Can any of you tell me what GBG stands for? Grills between glass. Okay? There are different types of divisions within your window. You have truly divided light, which is what these are. They have simulated divided light, which is one pane of glass and they glue on the wood mullions. And then there's GBG, which is the worst of the worst. It doesn't even have any kind of wood on the exterior of the glass. It has a little piece of aluminum, making a cross or whatever the hell it is, in between the glass. So when the sun's reflecting on that window, there's no breakup, there's no 8 panes, there's no 3 panes. There's 1 pane of glass. So what they're proposing is totally outlandish. It's not acceptable to this review board in the past whatsoever. And the fact that you're giving them until when these windows wear out is ridiculous. As needed is ridiculous. So those are my 2 cents. Thanks,
Okay,
Russ.
thank you. I have some comments on that, but I'll wait until after the public. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to this item? Go ahead. I know it's silly, but if you don't mind stating your name again. Sorry. Thank you.
I think Mr. Green ought to be demanded to come here and correct or follow through on his last 2
Violations. Code violations.
yes, 2 code violations, and be made to follow through on these things. I mean, why should these people have to be stuck with it? He's the one that made the violation. He should be here to fix it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to this item? and state your name.
Mary Winslow. I just want to say when they bought the building, they thought the issue had been addressed in the form of the agreement that had been reached with the planning department. And so it was logical to think that they would be able to remedy it as time goes by. If you could suggest perhaps a time frame that they could do it, maybe that would be a way to not make them have to replace all the windows right away when they just bought this project. And maybe that would satisfy people knowing that it's going to get changed. Give them a year or 2 years or 3 years or something at the worst, because they thought it had been addressed. Richard thought it had been addressed. He came to a solution. The property changes hands. I wonder what other precedents there are for solutions that when the property changes hands, other agreements get thrown out the window and new ones have to be made. I wonder. But I just want compassion for them as they take
Can I ask
a big responsibility.
Well, let me, do you have any other comments? I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So you say that Richard Green knew about this problem, and then he, didn't disclose it? Is that what happened?
He apparently dealt with the planning and building department to come to an agreement about being able to replace them in the future when they failed. Wasn't that what happened? This
That's
was
what
in
And
it
actually, I'm
is.
gonna pause really quick.
Yeah.
Thank you for your comment. I'm gonna let, why don't we have that be a question to staff, just because I'm realizing we should I'm thinking that we should probably have that through staff and not through the public comment.
Well, she know. I was asking her, was she knew?
Yeah, I think that's, go ahead. Go ahead.
If I may,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair. For
Yes.
the record, planning and building services staff cannot make decisions for the review board. Staff's responsibility is to review projects as they are proposed to planning and building services and determine if the request needs to come in front of the review board. The proposal that the applicant brought about keeping the vinyl windows until needing to be replaced was made to planning and building services, and staff proceeded forward with that idea from the applicant that we are here now in front of you, but there has been no approval and there has been no remediation, I think that's the right word, for the code enforcement case until there is a solution that is approvable or approved. And so there is a presentation in front of the review board today, but there is no approval issued by planning and building services.
That's what I'm getting to.
Yeah. So just to clarify, back in January, I was gonna state the date that process started, but we can't speak for the applicant, but I'm guessing
The
they would
violation
say,
was issued in 2023.
yeah, that a recommendation from staff was made that we are voting on or not voting on, and that staff did not say that it was resolved to the landowner or anyone, because staff can't make that decision, they can just make a recommendation to us, we make the decision.
Staff didn't say it, but someone said it to them.
So, right, if Mr. Green were here, the question we would ask is, why do you think, or did you think, that this was a done deal? And he's not here, so we can't ask that question.
So I'm gonna close the public hearing, and I'm gonna bring it back up here for further discussion about how to move forward. Does anyone want to start? Oh, I'm sorry, I want to clarify one more thing. To one of the members of the public that mentioned that if we support some sort of version of, if we can come up with alterations to staff's recommendation, there's nothing in here about the type of wood windows that will be replaced. The motion would be, or the plan would be for the replacement windows, whenever they are required to be done, to meet our guidelines, to be wooden. So we were talking, Kelly mentioned like the metal inside the things, like that's
What
not.
he mentioned was there's 3 different kinds of wood frame windows. And
Right.
one of them has the internal frames in it.
I'm just clarifying that that is not in our motion. So our motion would say it has to meet the guidelines, these are the guidelines, they have to be wood. It does not say it's this kind, it's Home Depot, it's not Home Depot. So that's just not lined out. I'm not saying that that's a positive or negative, I'm just saying it's not in the resolution as before.
So we
Does
are,
that make sense?
yeah, and we are trying to get, I won't be there, the guidelines change to make more sense, because to Kelly's point, the point is not about windows, it's about the look and design thereof. So
Right.
that's the reason it says, you know, whatever the guidelines are at the time.
But I just want to clarify that the recommended findings don't line up the type, I mean, they say it needs to meet our guidelines. It says the date that the, oh, okay, it has the date, it says that it needs to be in, you know, the elements need to be in compliance with our guidelines, and then it talks about like the period of the permit. Or, yeah, so, the condition that was added was 6, as required window replacement occurs, which we can change that, we can say X date or whatever. The 24 windows shall be replaced with materials consistent with the design guidelines in place at the time of replacement, such as 24 wood windows for acceptable materials. So I just want to say that it's not specified, that's the main.
Yeah, so there is a hole there.
I have so many questions, but
There is a hole there which we are, I hope, still dealing with, trying to plug to be more definitive about windows.
Yes.
Because just saying it would, Kelly's point, doesn't really cover the whole gamut.
Yeah, now it just says that it's in line with the guidelines. Go ahead, Deidre, you had more questions?
okay, so first question is to Jesse Wallman, Tanner Wallman. If the windows were denied, does the applicant have 2 years, or how long do they have to replace windows?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It is staff's understanding that code enforcement is proceeding forward with their order of processes. And I am not a staff or code enforcement, but my basic understanding is that their office receives a complaint. They investigate it, they give a timeline to the landowner for resolution. If that is not met, then they can go up with the next level of ranks to do fines to the property owner. They can go up to, I believe the next level is a notice of violation, and then there's another level of a lien on the property. They have state regulations, and I'm not a code enforcement officer, but the basic entity is it starts with a complaint, there's a notice, a time frame to get resolution, and there's fines, and then there's notice of violations and liens. I believe that is the
Okay, so you don't
4-year
have any
order.
idea what the timeline is on that?
I do not for their
It could be
staff
6 months, it
directed.
could be 2 years, it could be 3
However,
years.
we could make an action tonight that could happen.
Okay,
I mean, it would still, if it wasn't met by that timeline, it would still go into the
Right.
code, it's already in violation, as we've heard.
Their code violations clock isn't going to start until we reject this permit, or if we reject this permit.
Right,
They believe they have a solution.
but an alternative would be to
No,
alter
I
the
understand
solution
that, but I'm
with
just
the
saying.
timeline,
Yeah,
that then it would,
I'm just making the point that the code enforcement clock is not already ticking, because this is on the table.
gotcha. Go ahead, Jesse.
We have a public comment.
We're gonna keep it up here just for a minute, so we can try to get to this. I'm gonna try to get us to a motion in the region or rejection of what's gonna happen,
I'm
and
still questioning.
then we can maybe open it up again.
Things are.
Go ahead, Jesse.
If I may, through the chair, thank you. What I think that I'm hearing the review board try to figure out is, can the review board put a time restraint on the words as needed? And the review board can amend condition 6. And also the review board can, I don't believe the review board can shorten the life of an approved MHRB permit, which is 2 years. But I know the review board can extend review board permits to a specified date. So what I think I hear the review board asking is, or discussing, is can the review board put a time limit in condition 6 to say the windows must be replaced within the 2-year life of this MHRB permit?
Yes, that's what I'm wondering if that's.
So
I wasn't gonna ask, but that's okay.
that is what I hear
I don't know.
some staff or some review board members talking about. I want to just pause and look at this in a big picture, is if an applicant came forward and asked to replace windows, and they didn't do it until the 24th month, the very end of the 2-year MHRB permit's life, they're within that valid active permit. So condition 6 could be modified by the review board with a time limit on it instead of the word as needed. You wouldn't be changing the request that says replace vinyl windows with wood as needed. You would be changing the time, you would be specifying a time limit on condition 6 that says that it is okay to leave these vinyl windows for the next 2 years, the standard life of an NHRB permit. Or it needs to be done within a year. As soon as that permit expires and the work is not done, if there's a time limit there, code enforcement will pick that back up because they have been looking at this. What they do, their severity and the level of that is not at my level, and I would have to bring that information back to the board after discussing with the code
I have
enforcement.
a comment.
Okay, hold on one second. So Deidre had an additional question.
At this point, the question I asked wasn't that, okay, so if, the question was, if the windows were not approved, do they have 2 years? No, they don't have 2 years. You don't know how long they have. So that was the question, that was the answer that she gave. But I know that, for instance, on the tents for the circus, that we gave her a longer approval because it was like, they were paying like, I don't know, $1,200 just for a circus to come to town every year. So at the time, I believe we said 10 years or something. Yeah. And so that's why they don't come before the board every year for 4th of July, because we approved that. It was like, well, yeah, you're a circus, of course. You've been paying this for like every year. So maybe if there's something where the windows can be replaced within years, or I don't know, something like that, you know, where they will replace them, and then that gives it a time limit, but not forever, you know.
Right, you might support a time limit.
That's longer, correct,
Okay.
but a time limit.
Okay.
Okay, I was thinking that I don't think it's fair for the board to act as if we're approving this, but I also don't think it's fair that the new owners inherit this problem and all the costs. So I'm trying to think of a possible compromise. I went and looked at the building again, and the windows differ as to how they're treated presently. There's there's 3 bay windows that are very prominent. The center bay window in each has both of the bars are behind the glass. So I'm wondering if it's a possibility that those 3 could be replaced with a very historically accurate
That's what Kelly was saying.
window that has, you know, the wood and each of the little glass panels fit in there. So I'm referring to the center window, which is the larger window in the bay windows. There's 3 windows, and then the ones narrow on either side of it, those do have a wood bar across, but then the metal fillets in back, but they're not as noticeable. I'm just saying possibly we could ask, I'm just airing this for the board to consider, that we would ask for the 3 center windows to be replaced with historically correct windows, not just the ones that Kelly referred to. And then there's also the side-by-side relatively plain windows on the street level, which would be not as expensive to replace, but those currently have the metal fillet in back, so we could also request those be replaced with historical wood windows. So that would be a total of 5 windows replaced. I'm just airing this for the board if that would aesthetically at least partially satisfy our aesthetic needs for the town, but not place a huge burden, as big a burden on the new owners.
So can I clarify something? So I guess my question, based on that, for staff, would be, I'm trying to figure out how we could structure it. So could we say that those 5 windows that we identify be fixed as soon as possible, but definitely within a year, and the rest within 2 years? Like, would that potentially, so the question is, would that be, like, would that even be possible?
I go longer than that, she go longer than that too.
I'd let
We
the
go
other
longer than that.
ones do what they
They
need
do
to
the
do
5, yeah.
for the other
Okay.
windows, but
Okay,
those
let's see if we can find, I mean, just see,
I
I'm,
haven't said it yet.
I know, I'm just,
Wait.
yes, I'll get to. And if we can get to a motion, I will most likely open it up again, just, I mean, I realize this is our thing, but, so my question for staff is, based on Justine's, suggestion, would it be possible to identify 5 windows for replacement within a year and then have an extended time for the other remaining windows? That's my question to staff.
are in 2 years.
Sometime.
Yeah,
2 years.
If I may.
2 years.
yeah, let's see.
If I may,
Yeah.
through the chair.
Yes.
So, within the staff report presentation packet, there is a street view image, and there are hand red letters, numbers above each window. Now, this lovely 8.5 by 11 photo makes it very difficult to see. But the windows that review board Herbert is discussing
Yeah.
are specifically
Sorry, she's really trying to answer your question. Yeah, go ahead.
the 5 windows where, what staff is understanding is that review board member Herbert is recommending that windows number 1, 2, 4, 7, and 11 are replaced with priority. I did hear possibly 1 year, then they keep not really giving a clear answer of the priority of which year. Staff is ready to write a revised recommendation that those have priority with a time frame. I'm not hearing if there's a time frame on the others, but because this street view image within the staff report has the 24 windows labeled, any window that you would like to have as a priority with a specified time frame, staff.
So the short answer is we can split the timeframes to be different levels of window depending on which ones we define. That's what you just said. We define the windows.
Staff is able to,
We can split.
if it is clear which windows, staff is ready to write those specific windows in because they are labeled on
No,
the
yeah.
You
document.
have that?
Okay, and I just want to clarify one other thing, that if we specify the priority windows and then have the remainder of condition 6, you said earlier that a permit is good for 2 years. The permit, if this permit was issued, it would be good for 2 years. So if we don't have the language about the as required window replacement occurs, if we don't have that language in there, then it would be a 2-year time period. If we list the priority windows.
I mean,
Does that make sense?
It's,
I just want to clarify that.
if I may, through the chair.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I think that what we could do is approve the 5 windows within 2 years, can approve for all of them to be replaced with maybe a longer time, maybe 5 years.
Would you support that? Okay. Okay, let's just hold that there.
Okay,
So you're saying that you would support a motion that says to prioritize the 5 windows identified, that are like the corner windows, and then have a 5-year time
2 years.
limit, correct, and then have a 5-year time limit on the
and
remaining
everything else.
of the 24?
Yeah.
Okay. Alan, what are your thoughts?
So
Priority pets.
I hear Tilly's comment back, President, and I'll say what I always say when he says that, we don't work on President. We work on-
You definitely do. You need to educate yourself. You work on
Sorry,
president.
No, I don't work on it. Let me say personally what I vote, I don't work on it.
You
okay?
do.
No, I do not. Okay, don't argue with Mike. Tell me what I think, because I know what I think. Okay?
Well, I'm just arguing with the facts.
No, you
Go ahead.
don't know why I vote that way. Secondly, I think it's, we have to be careful with the slippery slope. I agree with that. That, you know, when we start down a slope, we just, you know, keep, and I'm not sure I control that. Other than to keep it reiterating that it's case by case. Secondly, I would say that it's, you know, we obviously want to prevent any egregious sort of distortion of the look of the town. So I think Justine's kind of getting somewhere that we maybe need to think about. It would be a good suggestion. The third thing is, I think she makes another good point, is this isn't just replacing it with wood windows. We need to be very specific about what those windows would look like. Otherwise, we are going to get wood windows that who knows what they look like. So that's my thought.
Or we're gonna get the ones that they printed out.
Whatever, but I mean, I think we need to be very specific about, if we're gonna go say, change the windows, very specific about more than just wood windows, because we know that's a problem.
So now can I clarify something? So you're wanting something more specific than what's in the guidelines?
Yes.
You're,
Which is where Justine was going to.
I know, I'm just not sure how to,
Another one.
Well,
because this is, I just want to clarify that this is the okay to do the windows, right? Like that is, we're trying to bring a violation into compliance. And so what's on the books for all properties in Mendocino right now is that they need wood windows, not
No, I understand what's on the books and why that's.
yeah, why it's problematic.
Yeah, why it's problematic, yeah, which is why we're trying long term to address that whole issue.
Okay. And
I
did
do
you maybe
think
think about crafting a motion? Or, I just want to put that out there. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I just wanna ask, Jesse, in the code book, does it say the kind of wooden windows at all?
If I may, through the chair, so the Mendocino
If I
Historical
remember, it does, yeah, go ahead.
if I may, through the chair. The historical review board guidelines they have very specific examples within the style, lights, horizontal versus vertical. Vertical windows are more recommended. There's special conditions about smaller windows that are horizontal. So I was actually just going to just take a gander, and this is part of the review board's purview, is to take a look at those design guidelines to say, is this look retaining the character, not in a cartoonish way, but is the preservation retaining the character of the town? And so really going back to specifically section 7 of the structural guidelines, one moment, of the structural guidelines within the NHRB design guidelines, and understanding scale, proportion, vertical emphasis, exterior building materials, and windows. And so there are specific guidelines in here, and that is the purview of this board, and that is what you signed up to take a look at. Staff would like to also add that we have discussed this, and there is lots of discussion about the window list that's provided is not consistent with the real design guidelines. Retaining vinyl for some amount of time is an option if the board can come to a consensus of specificity of the number of windows, the time frames. The other option is for the review board to deny it, which then puts the applicant back in code enforcement. The other option is that there can be a continuance for what are the wood windows that are going to replace this within those guidelines. Bring that back to the board. The presentation that was submitted by planning and staff through the agent of what they're proposing, of what Mr. Green was proposing, It sounds like that's not acceptable to the review board. And so if it isn't, there's also, we want more information and they can bring back and that was part of this project's trouble, was getting a clear list of what windows are you going to put there to get resolution.
I want to just clarify something.
Yes,
So the previous applicant is not here,
that's correct.
but, and maybe this is an assumption that's incorrect, we have the image of the windows that existed previously. And if this was a new application, if this was new construction, yes, we would be able to say, oh, we want this kind of window, we want the no metal elements. But this is like existing wooden windows that were incorrectly replaced. But I think it would be safe to say that what we would like would be the wood windows that were in existence in the building previously. So it's not just like any kind of window. We have documented images of what the windows look like. So I think even though we would like to be able to, you know, I agree that we want to be able to specify, because this is an after the fact proposal that's being put forward, I think we might want to specify that the design of the windows
I
wood
agree,
windows in the
this-
guidelines like that.
This what was included with our packet
Correct.
is not that.
Right. I think
And
we need
that
to
is a problem
specify that we want it to be.
That I had with this,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, absolutely, I agree.
Okay, so I'm gonna bring it back to Justine. And I just want to clarify for procedure for everybody, we can get a motion and a second, and then I can still get more public input before voting on it. So I just want to clarify that sometimes people freak out, like, you have a motion, what are you doing? We could have a motion and a second, and then people could speak to that if they like. Does that make sense? Right. Okay, so do you have the, yeah, go ahead.
I do have a motion. I make a motion that we approve that they replace the vinyl windows as needed on condition that they install historically correct windows to replace the 3 center bay windows, which are 4, 7, and 11, and 1 and 2 on the street level. And those would be, they could be double pane glass, I guess, or single pane, but they have to have the wood frame, all wood framing.
Are you okay to say prioritize those windows,
Those
because we
would
would,
be within
yeah.
to replace,
I'm not gonna,
let me just
let's,
continue.
I'm trying to get
you're
language.
gonna get a no over here.
That's okay.
Okay.
And those would be, the 4, 7, and 11 would be replaced within 2 years. The remainder of the windows can be replaced as they age out.
You don't want to say 5?
5, I wanna say
No.
5.
Okay, so that has no, okay. So the motion is and so let me just also clarify that if this, before we vote on it, I'll take a break so that you can craft this. If we get a second, I will both get public feedback and I will also take time so that we can do it. But, so your motion is to prioritize those windows for historical replacement as soon as possible. And that,
Or
and for
within 2
the life
years.
of that permit is 2 years. And that, other than those ones, it could be as needed,
Yeah.
is what your motion is. Okay, so I'm gonna see if we have a second for that.
Right.
And I'm wondering about Alan specifically.
No, I would second that. I mean, I think we need more detail. I like the idea of replacing with what visually was there before. I think that needs to be added, but other than that, yes, I would second that.
Okay. Do you have something to add?
Oh, yeah, I
before-
thought that we were gonna say that all of them would get replaced within a certain amount of, maybe
We
60.
have a motion, we heard the motion, we seconded
Oh, that's the motion.
And now we're gonna see if we
Oh, I
vote.
see.
So interestingly, that's not the motion that's on, so what's on there is as needed after those priority windows. Other than those will be done in the historic.
What happens if I say no then?
Well, if 3 of us support it,
Yeah,
then it passes.
all
If
right.
it's divided, because this is fun, if it's divided because we're evenly, or if we're evenly split, then it doesn't happen. It's the same as a denial. If it's, yeah, does that answer your question, sort of? Yeah.
Yeah, so I
this-
just can't figure out why no one else wants to put a time limit on this.
Well, there are time limits, there's 2 years for the others, and as required for the rest,
Yeah, I think she would be more supportive if there was a timeline on the rest.
on the rest.
on the rest.
That's what your issue is.
Yeah, because it could be
Okay, all right.
20 years.
Okay,
I understand the issue.
so, okay. That's what's on the table. So I'm gonna open this up again, if anyone would like to speak to this general proposal. Like, we'll craft the language specifically before, but does anyone wanna speak to that? Go ahead. This is how the sausage gets made.
Pardon me?
This is how the sausage gets made.
I see it. Mendocino service, and I think that it's a good proposal to make it, put a time limit on it, you know, I could suggest, why not put a straight time limit of like 10 years? You know, I would, between you and I, would replace them as soon as I could, but the cost is substantial. And if you split it up, like, oh, these ones are gonna go first, right, because these are priority. I mean, I've often encountered where 2 years later or a year later, you can't get the same model window to repair something that was failed, you know, that you put in earlier. So it should look like what was there, but what was there, I can't, it's hard to tell from the photograph, but the front wasn't the same as the side, you know, and if I were to spend the money to replace its windows, I'd want it to look, you know, consistent and good, because to be perfectly honest, I've done a lot of work in that building, and those windows were built on site by the carpenters who did the framing and the siding and everything else. There's not really a consistent, really design to any of them. Some are some way and some are another way. So I think to be able to say that it should be replaced within X amount of time, to the specs that as exists already, you know, that the county or whoever is MHRB has already approved, this is the kind of windows that we want. I mean, that's fairly simple. And wouldn't we have to go 5 years from now, 7 years from now, and say, okay, I want to replace these windows? We still gonna have to file for a building permit, am I not?
No, because we would.
Well, you can't make a building permit last 10 years. I mean,
Let's have, Jesse and John.
There is already a building permit applied for, that's BD 2025-0050. They do expire, there are policies about extending them, it does cost money. You can break up the request into different portions if there's different timelines.
okay, well, that's what I was gonna ask was, would I have to get a different permit every time I wanted to do it? Or is it one permit good for, can you make it good for 10 years? Or do I have to file for an extension every 2 years? And is that not gonna be kind of,
That'll be a separate conversation.
all right, okay, so it seems, that's all.
I mean,
Thank you for that.
I mean, I hate to keep asking this, but don't you think that Richard Green has some responsibility here? And if there was something that said, okay, these windows have to be done within 5 years, you should have told me this, that
Well,
he could help you out a little bit there?
Well, you know, Richard Green's got Richard Green's life, and he doesn't even live in the country anymore.
And I think we need to keep it focused on what's before us. I understand that there's history.
I'd love to get it.
But I actually, but
Yeah,
I,
I know.
unfortunately, it's up to the current
Right.
property owners to try to deal with that, but it's not, that part is not before us, even though that's what we would like to have.
Yeah, there's just no way that I can really litigate that one.
Thank you for that. I think I saw another one. Kelly, did you want to speak to this one?
Yeah.
And I do hope, I should have said this earlier, that you can address your comments to the board and not to prior applicants or current applicants. Go ahead.
I'm speaking to the board.
Great.
Don't rise. I think it's a real shame that Richard Green is the violator and these good people who own the Good Life Cafe are being castigated for it. And you guys are in a difficult spot because you have sympathy for them and you're letting it influence your decision. You know, I mean, if Richard Green was here and he installed these windows over the last 7 years illegally, do you think you would have the same leniency? Like, hey, take your time in replacing those illegal windows. No, he needs to replace them right away. And if they did not put something into their sales transaction to protect themselves for this, they all knew what was going on. They had plexiglass windows in front of their deck and right on the street level. Those are illegal windows. You know what the rules are. And, sorry, we all know what the rules are. And if you guys say that these windows are good for the next 10 years, vinyl windows on Lansing and whatever it is, Ukiah, I believe that the three findings for all the projects that come before you is, one of them is like, does it fit in with the character of the neighborhood, something like that. And so every time I'm going to say, hey, there are vinyl windows on Lansing and Ukiah in the center of town. How can you not say that I can get vinyl windows here at this house? And you can say no precedent, no precedent. I mean, that's BS. You are setting precedent. Every time you make a decision, you are setting precedent. That is fact. I don't care what your opinion is. The fact is that you are setting precedent every time you guys make a decision. That can be used later on down the road as evidence that this was approved, a chimney was approved at this address, I should get the chimney. Windows were approved at this address, I should get the windows. This is how this works. It's not a case-by-case thing. If someone else got vinyl windows, I sure as hell can get vinyl windows.
Okay, so I'm gonna bring that back up here. We
Can I
have a
see-
motion.
Can I also comment?
We have to wrap this up, but, so I just want to clarify that we have a motion and a second, which I will ask Jesse to clarify and or take a break if you need to write it down. As it is, and we'll read that for everyone, we can vote on that. You can vote however you want, people can vote yes or no, just so you know,
Do you want to bring it back for discussion or no?
no, so if,
Okay.
if
As the property owner.
If the motion fails, hold on one second. If the motion fails because there's something else, we'll try to get another motion going.
I don't know that you can do that.
There's a motion on the table and a second. And so we will discuss and vote on that motion.
Oh, okay.
And then if it fails, then someone can
I'm
make
not
another
gonna second
suggestion.
it, so, did Alan second it?
Yes.
Okay.
So I just wanted to clarify that. Jesse, as staff, what are you needing to be able to come up with the recommended action?
If I may through the chair, thank you. Two things. The motion on the table needs to be clearly stated, with any specifications. Staff has a draft revised condition number 6, and staff does not have all of the Hearing Act guidelines to ensure that that owner of the property does not have a right to accept the motion on the table. So staff would like a clear motion on the table, and that the landowner have a moment to understand what that revised recommendation is from the board prior to a vote being made. But I actually would have to make sure that I'm not breaking the Brown Act or some type of a violation. Because I feel that the recommendation, the motion on the table that has a second, has not been completely stated, and that the landowner and applicant may not know what, because they do have the right to request a continuance, if they are not clear about that. I know that that is a right that the landowner and the applicant have, and so staff would need a clear
Okay, so let me.
revision.
Yeah.
And I believe that the landowner needs to have that opportunity to do so, or the board can continue.
So let me just clarify. You need a clear representation of the motion, and then the current landowner will have an opportunity to either sort of like accept that or say we would rather have a continuance. Is that my understanding?
So
Does that sound right?
It is, but I'm not, this is because staff, has not run into this, the experience that I as staff have. I don't know if that is actually a regulation about like public hearings and revisions to proposals that the landowner has expressed, that they want to speak and then not allowed to on their own project. And so, I think that staff isn't comfortable not having the landowner speak,
Yeah.
but staff doesn't have enough experience about the Brown Act and,
Okay.
policies of
That's fine.
business.
That's fine, so.
Okay, I know, there-
I'm just trying to get to some sort of resolution. I
Yes.
am happy to have a landowner speak, especially if, so I guess the question is, so what are your notes for what number 6 would look like?
if I may through the chair, there is a motion on the table with, made by Justine Herbert, seconded by Alan Sanders, and it is to revise condition number 6. And condition number 6, staff has prepared this, that 5 windows, number 1, 2, 4, 7, and 11, be replaced with historically correct windows within 2 years. The remaining 19 windows will be replaced with historically correct windows as needed.
Yeah, that's my understanding of the, so that's your understanding of what that would look like?
And
Is that your understanding?
it can
Okay.
happen sooner,
Sooner's
for
always good.
the owner's,
Right.
discretion.
Maximum.
Yes, but this one doesn't have a long, which I have to say, just like, well, and we'll, it would, yeah, okay. So, would the property owner like to comment additionally, about, yes, your thoughts on this motion? We're trying to, yes, if you wouldn't mind. And thank you for our, working this out as we go.
Teddy Winslow, owner of Good Life Holdings. The one thing I want to do before you guys make your final decision is appeal to the 2-year part, which is going to be really financially restrictive in the middle of a situation that the town is having with our water situation. And the sewer bill every month is like $3,000 just for which is in Fort Bragg, it's like, in the hundreds. And then here it's like $3,000 per. I heard the Hill House as well as the Mendocino Hotel are both paying in the $8,000 range. So I just want to remind you guys that to require us to remove and replace perfectly good windows, that you can't actually see the difference in the picture between what's there now and what's there unless you're an actual builder and you know what vinyl looks like versus wood. And I just want to know that since the town plan has been since 1976 unaltered or unimproved, you guys might want to consider maybe updating your acceptable materials to something that's actually affordable for small businesses or small landowners, unless all you want is big money in this town who can afford custom-made windows within 2 years, or else we face fines. Then we have to go foreclose and get like SCP or some Marriott hotel people to come in and put a Starbucks. If that's what you guys want, to require us to have to really micromanage a window versus a water system, a garbage solution, all of the other things that this town needs as a member of the community, speaking at the moment, who also just bought into the town and wants to see it flourish, not get squashed by silly little rules that involve what kind of window can keep a place from rotting away, or we can't afford something because the big guys can only be the ones to afford a custom window that's built on site with redwood that doesn't exist anymore, because we're not allowed to cut it either. There's like restrictions on the environment stuff, there's restrictions on supply chain stuff. I understand the historical stuff. I said I'm not looking for neon, I'm not looking for McDonald's or Starbucks or anything big and fancy and schmancy, but let us survive. 2 years is really restrictive. Deirdre's idea of 5 sounds better, but honestly, 10 years when we're talking about a building this big and projects that size, and it's gonna be on our dime as a small business owner trying to just survive and secure my place in the community. Or I could also go away because I can't afford to do the things that you guys are micromanaging on. From the
But I
76.
you bought
I
the
don't,
building.
no, I did, but I didn't anticipate being told.
No, I had 2 years to do it. I mean,
I'm just suggesting that we might just revisit the acceptable materials, that's all.
Okay, so can we
Sure,
ask,
call it us.
I see, Justin, I see that you have a question, I see that Alan has a question, but can we clarify if, so you know the motion that's, before
I
us, so
understand.
if that was, would you rather have us vote on that motion and have it potentially be approved? Or would you rather have a continuance to maybe,
I'd rather have a continuance, because
as
if
the
I need
current property
to,
owner?
if I need to, I will bring the entire community to support my position and not just be drowned out by two loud voices. I have a whole community that appreciates what I'm providing, and the rules being so restrictive are really keeping a lot of progress from actually being made in this town. And so if the community needs to come and advocate for a little bit of looser restrictions, and I see her rolling her eyes and she,
You're not getting it. We didn't make these rules.
I hear you.
But you
We
can
are
recommend them
It's
like
like
an
an
HOA. Here's the rules.
I can see that you
We
guys
didn't
disagree,
make the rules.
but I'm gonna try to get us to some
Well,
sort of.
that's all I had to say.
Okay, well, here,
You
did
want
you
me to
have
say
a-
your right?
Yes.
I have a question for you. I just want to make sure that you do understand that the main windows we're talking about here are 3 windows. Just
Yeah.
3.
I do.
And I look at here, it doesn't even appear that they're double hung.
That's great.
It's a solid window with 4 lights.
And when you
And
look
we're
at
talking 3 windows replaced with the street level, 2 windows side by side those are not complex windows. So that's what we're talking about. A total of 5 windows in 2 years. And these 3 upper windows are not, as far as I can see, they're not even double hung. So just
It's aesthetically bothering you to look at the new ones. is what
that's
you're
our
saying.
purview,
Yeah.
is to keep the historic quality. And so I just want to make sure you're clear on that, how many windows we're talking about. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I would ask, because I'm certainly, I think as the applicant, you weren't the applicant. but you were
Inheriting, yeah.
inheriting this mess, that you would work, like if a continuance was, found, that you would work with staff to come up with a proposal that, given the feedback that you've heard today, just personally, I understand why we want the windows to be wood, we're trying to maintain historical. So I just want to urge that if we do a continuance, that there's a proposal that we're able to move forward on, given the feedback that you've heard.
I guess I just say, so, I know that you bought the property off, in your own transaction. Did anyone give you the Mendocino Historic Review Board guidelines and the town zoning plan? Okay, so it's a little bit like an HOA here, and everyone has a responsibility to take, because it's the whole town's a federally designated historic district. So that's where historic review board, that's where we're coming from.
So I totally hear you and I support that. Like I said, I don't want the things that Fort Bragg has that's making it, flashy or whatever. I want you guys
Right, I
to
don't know
stick
anything
with
about
me.
Fort Bragg.
I do want the consideration of the fact that this is a complaint-driven system, and there are plenty of windows, just like the ones that you guys are pointing at in my building, all around town that have been replaced over the years, may or may not have been permitted. I was told when I did want a permit that I would go around and take pictures of those places and show you guys, okay, these were either approved or these aren't, and I don't want to be that person.
I would love that.
Yeah, but my
Wouldn't
point,
get
I
anything
guess, the other part of my point is just in your consideration for the priority. Is it aesthetically bothering you? Is it a vindictive, like he didn't ask for permission or did it without our consent?
No.
Or is it something where we could possibly consider focusing on just maybe making the town plan move a little bit with the progress of the future in this current situation of everything available, costing things, everything else, just to think about that when you're thinking about 2 years, or else you've got fines every day until you can.
I had longer, I wasn't gonna.
And Deirdre was asking for longer, which I
Yeah.
appreciated, and like I said, I was just gonna propose that maybe you consider more than 2 years
Yes.
to require us to do that, and also think about in the next few meetings to really revisit, like possibly approving. I know that she's on overtime, and I know that it used to be 3 of them, but luckily whatever, the town isn't requiring that anymore. And I hear you asking for more code enforcement, but like, can we just not, do we have to nitpick like every little thing and then just like drill them into the dead, or do we just maybe revisit things and make them a little easier for you volunteers to actually deal with instead of like hours of counting
Okay, so
time?
I'm gonna try,
Try 24 windows.
I'm trying to get to a resolution. Jesse, I wish I remembered the rules about, you know, like we have a motion in a second, I think we have to resolve that. But did you wanna, we're getting a request from the applicant to continue this to a date certain, did you wanna comment on that?
Yes, the board does have to vote on, continuance, if that is what the board would like to do. Everybody would need to make a motion to second that. There is a motion on the table that I believe has been modified, and, staff needs, clarification on that.
Yeah.
And also that if, a resolution is not taken, if there was not a decision made today on a direction for the landowner to go, code enforcement has they are watching this, they are aware of this, and they have their own regulations of how they can put more, pressure on the landowner. And so, I am not actually sure what the motion is on the table. I stated one, but
That's the
staff,
one that's on the table.
staff continued to discuss the review board members continued to discuss it, and they have changed the number of windows from 5 to 3. And and so staff believes that there is a
I thought it was gonna be back to the board talking, that's what we used to do, and it's never gotten back to that.
Let's just, hold on a second.
Never got back to that.
Let's just hold on a second. So to clarify, the motion is the same. Justine was just referencing for the applicant. So the number of windows are the same with the 5, but she was she was like calling out the specifications of those are the bay windows and those are the ones on the ground. Okay, is that my understanding? So there was no change of
so it's still 5.
Same, yes, same
If you
general
guys
motion.
can state the motion on the table before we take a
I don't
vote.
know, okay, nice, hold on, everybody each other,
My
like we
goodness.
used to, like the good old days.
My goodness. So, here's the thing. We have an applicant that would like to have this item continued to a date certain. So I just want to state that. However, we have a motion and a second on the books that we need to vote on. That's how the procedure works. So we need to vote on the motion that you outlined. I'm happy if we want to make sure that we're okay with that language, but we have to vote on it. The board could vote no, so that then we could entertain a motion to continue, which is what the applicant would like. So I just want to clarify that. That's probably how this would go.
Staff needs a 5-minute break.
Okay. Hold on 1 second. Deidre, do you have a question before we take a 5-minute break?
It's been on the board for a long time, what we used to do before we took the vote is we closed off the comments in public, and the board members discussed it, and none of the people could comment.
Yes.
Then maybe come to a solution. But you're like trying to push it through, and at this point, it's not pushed through, and my vote's gonna be no, and, you know, so if we could, but it could maybe change if we could discuss it between the board, because that's what we always used to do, every meeting.
So here's the thing. The conversation that we've been having, and when you had your comments and everyone had, that was our discussion here. And then a motion was put forward that you don't agree with, which is totally fine.
I see.
But
I agree
because,
with two-thirds of it.
Peter, because there was a motion and a second, we have to vote on it.
I see.
We can discuss it, but we have to vote on it. But what we're gonna do now is take a 5-minute break.
Okay.
And then we're gonna come back and vote on this motion, which if it fails, we can put a motion to continue it to a date certain, which is what the applicant would like. Or if it passes,
I don't
then
think
it would
so,
be.
I think the
Point of order.
we can't continue it.
Yes. Okay, we're gonna take a 5-minute break. I'm happy to discuss point of orders or Robert's rules. We're gonna take a 5-minute break until 8:05.
I'm just gonna sit here.
If the board turns it down, you can't revisit it for 6 months.
Okay, we're gonna reconvene at 17 after. What do you think?
If I get through the chair. Thank you for the moment to pause. But there is a motion on the table. Staff conferred with my Robert's Rules of Order and my guidance, my county, I did not speak to county council for the record. We spoke with my direct supervisor. We conferred on the Robert's Rules of Order. There's a motion on the table, there's a second, and there is not a vote. If the vote comes and the project is denied, that is said and done, it is denied. The project will go back to code enforcement. If the applicant requests a continuance and there's a motion on the table, the person, the motioner, the person who made the original motion may amend the motion. That would need to be seconded again, and then the vote could happen. Whether, I always talk too long. There should be a period. The motioner was Justine Herbert.
Yeah.
It's okay.
The motioner was Justine Herbert, review board member Herbert. She can amend, Ms. Herbert can amend the motion on the floor to whatever she would like, and that would need to be seconded, and there, period.
Okay.
I got a question. If I may, for the chair.
Yeah.
Okay, so, since there's been a motion and it's been seconded, can we, if we still come back to discussion from the board before we vote?
Why not?
If I go through the chair. The motioner can revise the motion on the floor to, they could request that it be removed. They could request a new motion for a different motion to come to the board.
But can we
And that
discuss
was
it in
discussed.
between?
That is what you have been discussing since 6:25.
Okay, so, Justine, the applicant has said that they would like a continuance to a date certain. Would you be willing to adjust your motion to that effect?
I'm making my motion, do I have to amend it because they request a continuance? I feel that this is like a traffic jam, that if I've made a motion that's been seconded, we need to vote on it. That just expedites the process.
But
So
that
we
means,
need to
Now they might get it denied.
but if it's
Well,
a
it's fine
denial,
if it's rejected, but I
That's
just
fine
want,
for them.
excuse me, it's fine if it's rejected, that's the process, but I want to expedite the process tonight.
Okay, but you understand that the applicant is asking for a continuance, and that if we take the vote on the motion as is without the recusal part, and it didn't pass, that would be declining that would be denying the permit, and it would go through those channels.
Doesn't come back to me.
Okay, if the motion I made doesn't pass, can't we make a second motion
well,
during
that was
this
the
meeting?
original question, right?
Yes, but apparently not. Apparently,
No, she can retract this and make another motion.
Yes.
so apparently,
Yes.
apparently we're all learning, and the advice from the planning department is that if we vote no on this motion, that the permit would be denied. And how you're describing it is also my understanding, but we've gotten this direction, so.
I think if the motion, if we take a vote and it doesn't pass, then it goes back to square one again, and it's as if they have a continuance.
No.
No,
Right?
okay, do you want a chance to answer that? Go ahead, Desi.
The Mendocino Historical Review, if I may through the chair, the Mendocino Historical Review Board can make a decision to accept and or deny.
But-
They can also make a motion to continue the project. If the project is denied, it starts at ground zero and the applicant will go back into code enforcement and a new NHRB permit will need to be applied for.
So we can't deny one motion and then put another one on the table for the same purpose.
You cannot make two actions on one permit.
So that was the whole point. You can't,
Yeah.
you can't have a vote or deny the motion and then say, okay, that one's denied, let's put another motion on the table for the same.
No,
No,
because you can
We
retract your motion
can't.
and then we
But
can.
let's be clear, because that's what Justine's
Yeah.
wanting to do, you can't do that.
Right.
The, whatever rules were under.
I'm just wanting to go forward with the motion that's on the table now that has been
Which
seconded.
I would agree with, because
I'm
it's a
wanting to
different
go
time
forward
limits.
with the vote.
But if it were denied, right,
Uh-huh.
we cannot, your point was, if it's denied, can we go back and have another motion for the same thing? And the answer to that is no.
That's just a question. It's okay with me if we don't have that second, but I'm just interested in text kind of getting here.
I understand where you're coming from. But if the goal is to allow the applicant a continuance, we would need to adjust, I think you understand that we'd have to adjust the motion that's on the table to do that. So if you choose not to do that, then we would vote for it as is, as the proposal is. But if that was declined, it would be like just declining the application, and it wouldn't allow us to make adjustments for like 10 years, for example. So, and we'll talk about this in the future on other applications, because I have some questions, but we'll get more feedback after, you know. But for this meeting and this item, that's my understanding.
I think we should grant them the continuance, because sometimes, like,
So what are your thoughts on that?
I just stand by what my
Original.
statement is. Basically, I don't
Okay.
see anything to counteract it.
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify that the motion on the table is to approve the windows and doors, or sorry, no. The motion is to approve permit 2023-002 with a change to condition number 6, which was, you had the language that was stated earlier, that is to prioritize 5 windows for replacement within the period of the permit, which is 2 years, and that the remaining windows that are not those 5, which is 1, 2, 4, 7, and 11, that those will be replaced as they become, at the time of replacement, to be consistent with the design guidelines of the MHRB. Is that your understanding what the motion is?
Yes.
Jesse, do you understand that that's what's on the table?
Yes.
Does the seconder understand that?
Yes, but he's not terribly happy at the moment and wondering what the hell he's going to do.
Yes, so I'll just clarify that if the vote is taken, well, the vote will be taken. Yes, and if the application is denied, then it goes into the, the applicant would have an appeal process, the current landowners would have the appeal process before the board of supervisors, right? Like,
$8,000.
yeah, which they would incur, fees, yeah. This isn't ideal, but this is sort of where we're at.
I know, we sure
So-
could figure this out, if we could just talk about it, but
Dieter, we really have been talking about
I know you
this.
said that,
Is there
and you
anything
kicked it down the road.
Is there anything you would like to add before we
Yeah,
vote on this
yeah,
motion?
if there was a time limit on the second part, instead of like keeping it open-ended for the next 50 years,
Yeah.
then I'd be on board and say yes,
I appreciate that, that's not.
but that's not it.
Unless, Justine, if you would like to adjust it so
She
that
could
the,
retract her motion and
No,
make it, there was,
Dieter, hold on.
that's what she just said.
If you wanted to adjust your motion to have a timeline on the second batch of windows versus when they needed to be replaced, do you have a desire to do that?
I think I proposed it that way because it's kind of giving them a relief of cost for those other windows. So I prioritized windows I did.
Okay.
So it's a compromise, you know, to give them some cost relief.
Alan, do you have anything else you'd like to add before we vote? I realize this is not what we were looking for.
I'm going to find this difficult because I really would like to see a continuance with some action from the landowner, but I can't deny it because of the Powell thing goes back into the hopper, so I'll screw you.
Well, so I have a similar, you know, I find this really challenging because I both want to, you know, things come before us, you know, this is something that has already happened, we get that a lot, you know, like we want, this has been a code violation that's not, you know, it's continuing to be a code violation. If we don't deal with it, it's almost like I feel like it is sort of kicking a can down the road in the sense, like, the reason why I would be interested in trying to find a solution is because the previous property owner and the current property owner are trying to come to some sort of resolution, right? So
No, the previous one's
Concerned
not doing
about-
anything.
I'm concerned about, so I guess I should just say that if we're moving forward with the vote, I will most likely vote in favor of it because it is a timeline, like it's a 2-year timeline for the initial and then the rest. I would prefer a timeline on the rest, but I'm willing to, I will most likely be voting in support of it so that it's a positive outcome versus a declination, decline. That's sort of where I'm at.
Yeah, we kind of
I would say
painted
that-
ourselves into a corner where I would much prefer to work to find a different solution. But if we don't approve this, then that's not going to happen, it's going to get worse. So we've kind of painted ourselves in a corner.
And is it,
I would say
something-
that, yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know, you never think, maybe I say it does, but maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I feel like that Penny's husband standing up, and I feel like it's because of them that they're honest, and that he says, oh, yeah, we're gonna change the windows out to the right ones. And I feel like they're gonna own that building for a really long time, that they will. I feel like they will. I don't think he's not telling the truth. I don't think he's gonna try and sneak by a window in there.
Right, but he
So-
can do it earlier if he wants.
He can do it earlier if he wants to, so,
That's
yeah, so
I
would
feel
say
that's
yeah.
understood.
Let's, is that?
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, because it's them, and they're buying the building, and I know they're
so
long-term
does that
people. and-
change how you're thinking about voting?
Yeah, I think so.
Just you want to add anything to that? Okay. Good. This was different than I thought it would be. Jesse, are you comfortable with the changes to number 6? That's in motion? Do you want to read it, just for giggles?
If I may through the chair.
Please.
There is a motion on the table made by Justine Herbert for 5 windows, number 1, 2, 4, 7, and 11, to be replaced with historically correct windows within 2 years. The remaining 19 windows will be replaced with historically correct windows as needed. Seconded by Alan Sanders.
Okay.
And if you're ready, I can do a roll call vote.
Yes, please.
Justine Herbert,
I,
Alan Sanders,
I want to go to last.
You don't get to choose, I'm sorry.
I'm going to abstain then. I
Alan.
can't, I'm sorry, you know, I am not going to put these people in a situation where they're forced to do something, and apparently we can't continue the discussion without totally going back and having to do another permit. I don't find that acceptable, so I don't know which way to vote. I really don't, because I really would like to deny this motion and have the owner go back and do a continuance so we can try and find another solution. But I don't want to deny, because if I do and the vote goes the other way, then they'll be screwed. They'll have to go put the thing back in again. So I'm
Okay,
going
so
to abstain.
because this is Alan's last meeting, I'm going to ask that we go out of order and have him last.
Deirdre Lamb,
Aye.
Alan Sanders,
I'm going to deny, no, I'm voting no.
Holly Mandel.
I'm gonna vote yes.
The motion passes to accept the revisions made today for the record to condition number 6, the remaining conditions of, as recommended within the staff report for the Mendocino Historical Review Board application 2023-0002 with a 3 approval, 1 denied, and 1 absent. So the board moves forward. So that, an action letter will be sent out to the applicant and landowners tomorrow by staff. It is appealable by the Board of Supervisors with proper findings that is stated within the staff report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think that was the hardest one, I really believe. So I'm gonna move to item number 9, matters from the board members. Does anyone have any matters from the board?
So, thank you, guys. Goodbye.
Yeah, thank you.
Are you sad?
I caused trouble enough in my last
I
meeting.
don't want to know. Right, okay, item number 10 is report from the chair. I have none, given the fact that staff is going to talk about our next meeting, correct?
If I may through the chair,
Yes,
thank you, great time to discuss. The next Mendocino Historical Review Board hearing will be September 14th because the first Monday of September is an actual holiday, the 7th. And so there are items prepared for the agenda with a couple of items for the September 14th Historical Review Board hearing. Following that day, the Board of Supervisors, which is more of a matters for staff, but if you'd like me to talk about what happens on September 15th, is the Board of Supervisors is having their regular meeting, but it is actually going to be held in Fort Bragg at the Veterans Hall on the corner of Laurel and something, Big Fierce,
Veterans Hall.
Veterans Hall across the street from the Fort Bragg County, the library at,
Cambridge Park.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cambridge Park.
thank you. I don't know the name of the cross street there, I apologize, but Veterans Hall, that meeting typically starts at 9 a.m.
Okay.
So, big day for, the Board of Supervisors to be on the coast, and I know that the board has been talking about what they would like. I know the review board has been talking about the Board of Supervisors and what you guys would like. That answers your
I will
question.
say, I went to the last meeting when I was at the Catholic Church here, and it was so great to have them come here.
Yeah,
It really allowed all the locals that live here to be able to go to the meeting, so.
and allows people, to,
You know, I mean, people from the coast, you can go all or whatever, you know, rather than go and get
I think
coffee.
it's really important that they do that. I do have, sorry, going back to item 10, the report from the chair just briefly, as we know, there is open seats, and so I've had a conversation with Mark, the fellow who's here in Orange.
Raven, Graeven.
Thank you, he's
You're welcome.
considering applying, if there's people in the public that would like to, I know, yeah, he might change his mind now, but, we have an open seat
For sure.
for our September meeting. Maybe I'll reach out to the planning staff to find out a little bit about timelines, like if the supervisor will appoint. Do you know when the supervisor would appoint if you had an application?
All of your positions are filled through the court recorder, the executive office, and then with the Board of Supervisors and Planning and Building Services has no information until the Board of Supervisors has appointed somebody, and then they have to do their oath.
Yeah, I'll check in with the supervisor and see what the timeline is, like if we're talking about having a member. Yeah, do you know?
Okay, yeah, I do. Okay, so I talked to Ted Williams, and Ted Williams said that, I'm sorry, Alan, you're still on the board until August 23rd. So no decision can be made until after you're unofficial. So I'm sorry.
But you can line people up.
You thought this was it.
No, I mean, but you can line people up.
Yeah, so he said for people to do do applications online, and then he would take it from there. So I know that Mark Graven did put one in on Saturday, because he called me and we didn't have to get that spot. So,
Yeah, okay.
So we'll know more
I don't
after the
know
23rd.
if anyone else is gonna apply.
Okay, so
But then Ted said he didn't wanna have a gap, so he was gonna try and fast forward things.
Okay.
Like if the process started now.
Maybe it could be on agenda item before our next meeting, like this for supervisors. This is out of our control. Okay,
Yeah, it goes with them, yeah.
I'm really hoping that we, could I get a motion to adjourn? Good, go ahead.
That was down.
Yeah.
Matters from staff.
We already did matters from staff. Did you have more matters?
We did not, we did share a report.
Yeah.
I did chair report, and then I moved to matters from staff, and then I went back.
Matters was down.
To comment?
Yeah,
The meeting, the minutes will show, go ahead, go crazy. Matters from
If I
staff.
may through the chair,
Sure, Jesse.
I have 2 items.
Okay.
One is that at our May and/or June hearing, there was discussion about a proposal that the Board of Supervisors recommended Planning and Building Services respond about the historical inventory updating of the Mendocino Town Plan,
Yes,
inventory
right.
1. There is draft preparation for staff to present to the Board of Supervisors at a date unknown. The importance is that the agenda is posted 10 days before a hearing. And so if you are interested in finding out if the response from Planning and Building Services to the Board of Supervisors at Ted Williams' request, you would have to look at the Board of Supervisors agenda by September 4th to know if it's going to be on the September 15th hearing in Fort Bragg. So we have our special holiday for September for our regular review board hearing, but it may be coming to the Board of, that response for Planning and Building Services may be coming to the Board of Supervisors the very next day. If you are interested, please pay attention to your Board of Supervisors agenda, and staff would also like to, staff would also be emailing you guys to know if it is on the agenda, but I will not know until after the 4th of September. The second item that I have is, Alan, I want to say thank you so much for your 6 years of service. You have taught me a lot, and it's been an honor to get to know you, and
Likewise.
a pleasure to work with you, and you will be missed. So thank you for all that you've done in our community.
I appreciate that. I'm sure I've annoyed you at times.
Oh, no.
And I'm probably doing my job.
Can I just make a
Okay,
note on the historic
hold on
list?
1 second. Is there
That
anything
includes
else?
my
Okay,
report.
go ahead, Deidre.
Okay, so on the historic list, just to fill people in what that is, Karen McGrath and Carol Donnelly worked tirelessly for this, to create this virtual map and update the inventory list. It's taken them 6 years. So then it went through the Board of Supervisors, and Julia Acker-Krog was going to be making a memorandum. And poof, she got promoted to Marin. She's out of here. And it was fast. And so Dan Potash and I were like, oh great, you know, this thing hasn't come. She hasn't had time to do a memorandum, and I even sent her an email, and she was already gone. So she left in a hurry. And so somehow Ted Williams is working with, I believe, staff to try and get this memorandum put together without Julia. So that's just to fill you in on what that means.
Yeah, because it's a really cool body of work. I'm
It's
excited
cool.
to bring it, yeah, okay.
I am too.
Okay, was there anything else? Or can I get a motion to adjourn?
Oh, yes.
Motion to adjourn, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
The meeting concludes at 8:42 p.m. Thank you so much